forgetting about your identity, core values, belonging, but also, like Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi said, your one of your feet should be at the center, whatever you belong to, your religion or your identity, but the other foot should travel among 72 different nations. So ethics of care, from an Islamic perspective, I would think that it is related to that. So you really care about the others. And ethics of care was developed, it comes from feminist philosophy, and you have this feminine idea and motherhood, compassion, that, and religions are all about that. They all talk about compassion. And and it is a departure from the Kantian philosophy, caring for the stranger, in the sense that in the Kantian philosophy, you think about the processes and every step must be moral and right and legitimate. But the care of ethics, they say, I would just look at the situation without really thinking deeply about the steps, and I would just help this stranger there because they've been dispossessed, victimized, haunted, dehumanized, etc. So this is a kind of motherly reaction, right? So you are not rational, you are not thinking about yourself and making calculations. So in international politics, you have this realpolitik in most of the times, so you do calculations. And in even religions, unfortunately, yes, they are all about transcendence and compassion and caring for the others. But when you scratch the surface, unfortunately, you see realpolitik. That's the problem there. Quran, every chapter, there are 114 chapters in Quran. Every chapter starts with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The most benevolent and merciful, compassionate God. But there are always exceptions. So one of the chapters doesn't start with those, Surah Al-Tawbah, right? So no Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Why? Because the chapter talks about infidels and how to smite them, how to punish them, etc. So yes, all religions talk about compassion, but when it comes to realpolitik, we find an excuse to simply get away from our rules. International order, rules-based order, yes, but where is it now? In Palestine. So it's gone. So it applies to Ukraine. It must apply to Ukraine. Of course, they've been victimized and occupied unjustly. But somehow it is not their civilian population are suffering. So I don't have a solution. I mean, humanity have been struggling with these issues for ages, so that's difficult. But I think we can start with self-criticism. Maybe religions also can start with self-criticism. Sometimes we think that we are very virtuous, we are nice, our religion is perfect, etc. And I am talking about my own religion, Islam, here, not criticizing others. But when you really scratch the surface, you see that sometimes we are all slaves of realpolitik, and we always find excuses and make exceptions.
Sarah?
That was beautiful. It makes me think about, the core Jewish values of tikkun olam, thinking of others, seeing the entire world, social justice, your life is not just, lived for yourself, but it's lived for the whole world. And, also, as you say, seeing the way that religions can be, texts can be taken to and used to oppress other people, and reflecting on that. I think, I'm just thinking of, the really core thing, and one of the one beautiful thing that I think has been happening in this moment has been seeing so many groups come together in a shared sort of fight. And I was just speaking to Professor Mark Rose, who mentioned that his ancestor is William Cooper, the famous William Cooper, who fought so hard as an Aboriginal man for my ancestors, for Jewish people, and who were facing persecution in Nazi Germany. And that's, these sorts of relationships of standing with other oppressed groups, thinking back to our own histories of persecution, whether they're your direct histories, your family histories, your cultural histories, and the importance of standing with other people. And that, I think to me, that sharing in fights for justice, sharing those fights are things that reminds us all of our own humanity, and that's where we can really see that that positive change. And we're seeing it. I think it's been really beautiful seeing so much solidarity and people coming together in this moment from all different faiths. And although there is, an attempt at a political level, I think, and at like a very cynical level, to paint these sorts of conflicts as being between two peoples, as being sectarian, as as being two groups against each other. There is still, regardless, so much shared humanity and so many people coming together, and that gives me some hope.
Thank you. Diane.
Yes, it's. I think it's always important to change the conversation, and rather than saying this group has. You had an amazing phrase the other day, competitive victimhood, to talk about respect and dignity for all, and that's a core value everywhere in every religion, as is hospitality. That's another core value. I think it's always important to say who is benefiting from conflict. And obviously the military-industrial complex is benefiting from this conflict. And various politicians are benefiting. So we have to be kind of wise to the game, my feeling. But the other thing is to take an analogy from Indian medicine. I lived in India for a long time, and we had two kinds of medicine. One was what they call allopathic. So that means Western medicine, where you identify the bacteria, and you get an antibiotic and you kill the bacteria, or you have surgery. And the other method of medicine was Ayurvedic. And Ayurvedic is about strengthening the good. So instead of killing the bacteria, you build the immune system so that the body automatically is able to overcome an attack by an infection. And I feel that, the process of interfaith dialogue itself is about strengthening the good. And there are many creative ways of doing that. And, one of them would be to reduce inequality in the world. I think there's something like a target of 0.5% of the GDP should be spent on development goals in the wider world. And I know Australia isn't doing it. Whatever the goal is, I know we're not doing it. If we could reduce inequality, spend less on arms, I think we would have less causes for conflict.
Thank you, Diane. I'm mindful of how much time we have left, and I'm hesitant and nervous to open up this for discussion, but because I know we won't finish. But I'm happy to take a couple of questions, maybe. So, show of hands, please. How many people are interested in? So there's one there. We'll come to you first. There's Roland. So let's start with these two. With you first. Is there a microphone? Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for that very insightful, and it's the right time, I think, to address that. Your question before was saying that why are we affected locally and globally? I think we need to understand that we are emotional and social beings. So when we see injustice, it doesn't matter where they are. We are all affected because we are human beings, we are social beings, and we are emotional. And also when we see that if you look at all the problems, it starts with either religion, cultural or the place where you belong. Yeah. So when there is injustice, it boils everyone. And why injustice happen? Because of greed and power. We forget to understand the source of the problem, because especially when politics steps in, because there is greed there and there's a power. So that's why where the problem is. So if we only understand and talk about it, when I was in the Philippines, when I was young, the Muslims were getting killed in the 70s. And why? Because of the power, and the politics steps in, and they want to zip everyone. because of power, fame, and money, and that is always the root cause of every problem in every lands in this world. And if we come together and remove politics there and see our similarities and works on it and understand and respect the differences, I don't see any problem in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roland there?
Thank you, Professor. I'm actually wondering, we are the Western world, and we always talk about defending our way of life because we are free people. We always stand on the high moral ground in terms of our stand on protecting humanity. We invaded Iraq and killed hundreds of thousands of people because we wanted to liberate the Iraqi people. We don't seem to take the same position when we want to liberate the Palestinian people. I think misinformation and lies is very important in this debate, because at the end of the day, regardless of where we stand, it's the decision makers that are likely to make a difference to what is going on. You know, social cohesion is obviously very important domestically, but it's the decision makers that will make a difference. A single death in Iran would cause our government to immediately apply sanctions against Iran. We watch thousands of innocent women and children being killed every day. We don't seem to have the political will to talk about sanctions. We supply weapons to kill innocent people, and then we drop food packages to those who are still alive, waiting to die. This double standard and hypocrisy is so blatant that it's beyond belief. What does it take to provide the truth? I mean, that is starting to change with social media, unfortunately, because the media machines are not able to control what is happening in social media. But it's that lie, it's the misinformation. I read our news. It is all coming from one side. There are no alternative view. We hear about the war in Ukraine and Russia. There's only one view. We are a free, democratic country. Why don't we allow the other view and challenge it? Challenge it. That's what's going to make a difference. It's public opinion. That's how we came out of Vietnam. It's public opinion. Yep. It's bringing the truth out, because all we are exposed to is lies. And it's the decision makers that are going to... But unfortunately, we're talking about religion. Religion is supposed to be a solution, but unfortunately, it's part of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland.